Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco. Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here for part 3. So this is the C tier. All Treehouse of Horror episodes. There are a couple that I probably won't remember, so I hope that isn't too annoying, but maybe you guys will appreciate where I rank them instead, because I feel like, honestly, like, even though this is a lot of episodes and I probably should have taken notes, which halfway through it, I was like, I want to start taking notes, but then all of a sudden I was like, eh, and then I just kept going, and I was like, maybe I should take some notes, and then I was like, eh, and then I just completely finished all the episodes, so, yeah. Whatever. So at the bottom of the C tier is Heck House. This was one where I just thought it was a little too short, a little too kind of been there, done that. I mean, like, honestly, like, I didn't really like the episode. It was Ned, of course, making some kind of like a religious horror house or something, and I didn't care for it. A Clockwork Yellow, I thought that this one had potential. I like the fact that they did this like whole Stanley Kubrick parody, but I think it could have been so much better, and it's another one of those episodes where I felt like it was so sanitized, it was so playing it safe. And I'm totally stalling right now because I'm trying to look up this other episode. The next one is Dead and Shoulders. Okay. Oh, that doesn't help at all. Okay, so that was a C minus. And then The Exorcist. This was one where I thought it was kind of cute. It was kind of funny, but it was just kind of dull. It was just kind of... It's a C minus, you know what I mean? And then B9 Rewind. That was one of the most recent ones. Oh, yeah. That one was okay. Which is totally, like, a terrible thing to say about something. It's so vague, and it's so, like, yeah, it was okay. Like, yeah, that means it's bad. That's something that I learned about a lot of, like, bigger YouTubers and, like, shill YouTubers, is that whenever they say something is okay, that means it's really bad. And then whenever they say something's great, that means it's just kind of good. And then whenever they say something's a masterpiece, it can either be a masterpiece or it can be a piece of trash. That's kind of like the scale of watching like shill YouTube channels like Collider and Chris Stuckman and such. Next up is Simpsons World. I thought this one was kind of fun in concept. I really liked the part where they have to, like, blend in and pretend that they're, you know, like, they have to pretend like they're robots, and then there's the part where Homer's forced to go into the bush, and he's like, I'm so sick of this bush. But, once again, I felt like this could have been a lot better. It was really short, and I think in some of the later ones, too, they had a few too many segments, and I think that took away from some of the quality. The next one is the Puka Duke. This one was okay. I can kind of remember it. I like the fact that it was focused a lot on Marge, because we never really get very many Marge like centric episodes, and so I thought that was cool. I liked that she got possessed. That was kind of creepy, but yeah, it was okay. Okay. Next is The Fright to Creep and Scare Worms. Or Worms? Okay. This one I really, really like, except there's a huge gaping plot hole. And that is that Lisa is, you know, she's supposed to be like this really smart girl, but she doesn't know that this grave is the grave of, like, I think Billy the Kid, it was what it was. Like, I just thought that was very unrealistic, and that was kind of like, no, you're pushing it. You know what I mean? Like, she should have known that was who it was. Next up is Dial M for Murder. This is one that a lot of people really liked. I just thought it was okay. okay. It was another one where I thought it could have been a lot better. I mean, this is the only Hitchcock parody. And for being a Hitchcock parody, it's okay. The thing that I liked about this and A Clockwork Yellow is that it showed that the Simpsons writers, they really liked these guys. And they really tried to tribute them as best as they could. But I think, again, they're both really sanitized, and they both could have been a lot darker. Next up, I love the part, actually, in A Clockwork Yellow, where Homer is at home with, I think it's one or two girls, I can't remember, and then instead of, having a threesome like he does, or the guy does in the movie, Alex, he just, eats a bunch of food and stuff, and, that was really hilarious. That was such a great idea for that scene. And then also, I love the part at the end where Stanley Kubrick is, watching the footage, and then he says, nope, cut it, destroy everything, we're going to start all over. It's like, ooh. I can only imagine if he was working with me on my movie, he would probably be like, okay, so when are we going to start all over on everything? That's what he would be like. Next up is Denim. I thought that this is the most recent one, and I thought it was okay. I thought it was kind of like a cheap copy of Venom, but just kind of goofy. And once again, it's very sanitized, very safe, very family-friendly almost, except for a couple parts. And yeah, did not like it very much, but it was just okay. Next up is The Sweets Hereafter. I cannot remember that one at all. Next up is If Only I Had a Brain. This is one of the earliest episodes, and once again, I thought this was very simple, but it was a lot of fun. But it's just another one that I don't really remember very much, except for, I guess, the part that they're showing as the picture with Homer and his boss. Dang it, I can't remember him right now. Next up is Homer. This is one of the first episodes that I ever watched originally, and I thought that this one was so gross. It was so, oh God, it is so hard to watch, and it's a great gross out episode. It definitely, maybe they made this because of people saying that the Treehouse of Horror became too sanitized, because this episode definitely is one to stay away from if you have a weak stomach. The next one is The Others. I can't really remember this one very well, but I do remember thinking it was pretty good. Next up is War and Pieces. I think that's the board game one, and I thought that was kind of fun to see all the different board game elements, but it was just another kind of meh episode. Next up is It's the Grand Pumpkin Millhouse. I've never really been a big fan of Charlie Brown, but I thought that this was kind of a fun, kiddish episode, and I thought that I really liked the style, and I liked the part where I think it's like the giant pumpkin attacks people or something. Yeah. Next up is Hex in the City. This is one that I know a lot of people hate, and it is kind of like, I mean, it's a really bad parody of Thinner. I mean, Thinner is a great movie. It's my favorite Stephen King movie, and this really does a disservice to that. But I think that there are a lot of funny jokes. I love the leprechaun, and I love the part where Homer and Bart are like sorting through all the different people inside the sack and everything. But it is very light, and it's more of like a comedic episode than a horror one. Next up is Untitled Robot Parody. I can't really remember that one very much. Next up is Danger Things. I have only seen a little bit of Stranger Things, but I gotta say that I kind of enjoyed this episode. I thought that all the 80s stuff was funny, and I thought that it was like a cute, fun parody of the show, even though I haven't seen it. Well, I've seen like 2 episodes, or like 1.5. Next up is In the Belly of the Boss. Can't remember that one. Next up is Clown Without Pity. For some reason, I'm not as much of a fan of this as other people are, because this is like a classic one. It's really classic, but I just... Nah. I prefer the original Twilight Zone episode, to be quite honest. Next up is Homer... the third, I guess you would say, or Homer 3. This one is actually a really good episode. It's not really a horror episode to me. It would have been better off as like a single episode. I think another thing too, this is probably going to be a controversial opinion. I think that it would be really cool to have a live-action Simpsons movie that is like a tie-in to this episode. Because I think that the animation of Homer in the real world is really, really cool. So that's kind of like my hot take for this video. Next up is House of Wax. This is one that I loved as a kid. I think it's a lot of fun, funny, and it's a great episode. Next is I've Grown a Costume on Your Face. This is another aesthetic roleplay one where it's basically all about, let's see all the Simpsons dressed up in these costumes. But once again, it's a lot of fun. Next up is Cook Off, I think is what it's called. I can't, let's see. Let's see if I can find it, because I really cannot remember it. Where is that one? Is it Stop the World, I Want to Goof Off? Yeah, I think so. I can't remember it, so... Next up is Finkelstein. I was really looking forward to this one for obvious reasons, but I thought it was just okay. I don't really like the Frinkle. Is that what he's called? The science guy? You know, he's not really a character where I would want to watch a whole episode about. Next up is Cora Lisa. I thought that this was a great episode. I thought that it was really creepy and scary, honestly. And I thought it was a great idea. I love the animation style, too. Next up is The Day the Earth Looks Stupid. I loved this episode, segment, whatever. I loved how it was black and white, and I loved the story. I thought that Orson Welles was a good character. So, yeah. Next up is Dial Z for Zombies. Funnily enough, this is another classic, but I cannot really remember it. And then lastly, the number one in the C tier is I Know What You Diddly Did last summer. I thought that this was a really, really good episode and a fantastic parody of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Safi and I just watched that for the first time last year, and I really loved this story. So, anyways, that is my C tier. I ranked a lot of these like a month ago or so, and so there are some that I would probably move around. But let me know what you think, and then I will see you for part 4.